I'll be honest. I tried. I did my best. I did what I could do, but I couldn't do it. I could not read The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky within a month. I sat at the library for 10 hours in one day just reading Dostoevsky. I didn't have the stamina to be able to finish this book, to be able to complete this challenge. I'm supposed to finish these books by the 21st of each month. It could be any of the 30 books as long as I finish it by the 21st. April 15th came around and I realized I'm only on page 227 out of 830. I'm not finishing this book this month. I knew I failed this challenge, Who thought on month 2 I wouldn't be able to read, these 30 books before I turned 30 by reading one every single month. That's what I would say. But that's not the case. These books on this list, a lot of them are really long, but some of them are pretty short. I call them my lifeline books. Books to help me in my time of need. Like this one, The Stranger by Albert Camus. 120 pages. Honestly, it would probably take me more time to make the video for it than it would to even read it. This is my in case of emergencies break glass book. If I'm not going to meet the deadline, if it's the 20th or even the 21st, I could probably still finish this day, easily. I can do better. I can do something longer than that. So I pivoted to Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. About 310 pages. Did it in 3 days. I took a little time with it. And I gotta say, it's pretty good. Just like the last one, I'm kind of realizing these 30 books might actually just be 30 good books. I'm 2 for 2 so far. And I gotta say, I get it. I get why this book is taught in school. There's a lot of baseline stuff that actually just makes it enjoyable, the way it's written, what it's about. What is Flowers for Algernon about? Flowers for Algernon is about Charlie Gordon, who is a 30-something adult with extreme mental disabilities. He can't really read or write too well, and you see that in the beginning of the book. It's him writing these progress reports of just his life, trying to remember all he can. 90% of the words are spelled wrong, which I really enjoyed, and I thought it was really intriguing. So Charlie Gordon is approached by these scientists about this new experiment they want to work on, where essentially the problem, they say, with Charlie is that, those toy blocks, he's got just a semicircle hole of stuff that can go to his brain of knowledge. And he's trying to put in squares. He's trying to put in stars. He's trying to put in anything. And what they're saying is with this experiment, they can change his keyhole so that it's a square, which if you've seen that video, everything can go into the square hole. So he's going to be able to gain all this knowledge. You see how his life kind of changes, because he becomes gradually more intelligent. And you see how people treat him differently now than what they've treated him before. The way he kind of views life, and just the way things evolve as a smarter human being. You kind of are thinking more about what other people think about you. It's something he hasn't really dealt with before. So it's like his whole life is kind of catching up with him. It's really interesting. So who is Algernon, right? The main character is Charlie Gordon. Algernon is this lab mouse, like a lab rat, that the scientists did the experiment on beforehand. So basically all the changes coming with the mouse first start to develop in Charlie, since the mouse had the operations first. And so you kind of see, the greater picture. I won't really spoil anything. Honestly, again, last time, the girl with the dragon tattoo wasn't a huge part of it. Algernon's not really a huge part of this one. It's all about Charlie. That's also 2 for 2. Let's go over, what did I learn about this book? The main point of this is I'm going to learn about reading and writing, so I can write better myself. Because I'm working on a couple projects. I got a little something in the tank. One thing I liked about it, I guess you can kind of say I learned it or may take inspiration from it, is, the journal entries of just how it's kind of set up. It's essentially a linear story, like beginning to the end. But he writes about these experiences, the things he starts to remember, and those are essentially flashbacks, right? But since it's all journal entries, it's like stuff that happened before, and that's something I hadn't really thought about. I kind of thought, if you do a book of just journal entries, like it's going to be chronological, right? Unless you put the entries out of order. The way they approach it, he kind of dreams certain things, or he thinks about his past a little more and how people treated him, or something, triggers an event from his past, and then you kind of learn about that part of his past. So it does have flashbacks without really being flashbacks, which I thought was really creative. Another thing I really liked is there was a lot of basically philosophy, or like quotes about life and living and kind of what it means. Like there's some pretty like deep quotes that Charlie kind of comes up with. Let me see if I can find something from the book. I underlined a lot of this book. This section happens when Charlie, when he's pretty decently intelligent, he goes to another place where at his work he would often, make mistakes, pull a Charlie Gordon, as people would call it, and then his coworkers would laugh at him. He kind of just laughed along with them, not really knowing why. And he goes to visit like a restaurant, and one of the waiters like drops a plate or something and shatters everywhere, and then everyone's making fun of him. And then Charlie kind of realizes like he was like him one day. Even in my dullness, I knew I was inferior. Other people had something I lacked. Even a feeble-minded man wants to be like other men. A child may not know how to feed itself or what to eat, yet it knows hunger. Like, that's such a deep analogy of how he was feeling. It's so like well done. And that's just one of the things I underlined. This was one of my favorite things on page 153. He says, "I'm exceptional, a democratic term used to avoid the damning labels of gifted and deprived, which used to mean bright and retarded, and as soon as exceptional begins to mean anything to anyone, they'll change it. The idea seems to be, use an expression only as long as it doesn't mean anything to anybody. Exceptional refers to both ends of the spectrum, so all my life I've been exceptional." That's crazy, because that's so relevant today, using friendly terms, something still prevalent today. I think this was written in like the 1950s, and it's just crazy to see, if you have deep-rooted philosophy and like social commentary of your book, if it was one time extremely prevalent, it could still be prevalent in the future. I would say this book feels like exceptionally modern, besides one aspect, and that's just the prices that are mentioned. Like, they say something's expensive when it's like $5, which nowadays would be insane. That's one of the only things that like keeps this from being like, this could have been written like last week, of how prevalent it is to even modern society. And it's technically science fiction, but it's like could have happened, and like people just aren't aware of it. So those are some of the things that I learned about writing, is like the deeper meaning of stuff is actually kind of just incredible. It was a great book. I did find 4 words that not necessarily I didn't know, but I'm like, yeah, that's a good word. So this is the vocab section. Now, there were a lot of, big long words of like sciencey stuff, and I didn't include any of those. Most of them I knew from like AP Psych and stuff like that. I wanted to include words that would be used in other non-scientific contexts. So these are those 4 words. First word is deleterious. This next one, I'm glad I looked it up, because it's adroit. It's probably French. Adroit. Next word is exigencies. And then the last and final word is self-effacing. So that's what I learned throughout this whole book. I'm really glad that I read this book. I'm glad I put it on the 30 before 30. It's a really great book, and I'm excited to see what's next. I hope you'll follow me along. See you next month.